Filomena Fuduli Serrentino earned her master's degree at NYU. For a few years, she taught at the college level on Long Island. And lately, since 2010, she became a teacher at Newburgh school system. She is also a journalist, an applauded journalist, and lately she has published a book which is entitled La lingua italiana nelle scuole di New York. Very useful book, and I'm very happy to see that she's here today with me. I hope you enjoy the conversation. The book is in Italian, but our conversation will be in English. So please stay with us. Welcome.
Grazie. Thank you.
It's nice to see you.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
So you are teaching at Newburgh, New York.
Yes, I'm teaching Newburgh school system since 2010 in a middle school. The first year when they hired me, they had a minor program was KA, but then the funds start to go down, and they remove it. They start to they remove a few language, and they send me to a middle school where I've been teaching since then. Okay,
I'm very curious about your last name, Fuduli.
Fuduli.
It's a very Fuduli.
Fuduli.
It's a very unusual. The first two usually don't happen together. You know,
Fuduli.
Is it a Sicilian?
Calabrese.
Calabrese, Calabria region.
Yeah, my father family. And it's not a very popular name in America. A few people immigrated with this last name, but it's more common in Italy, in the south of Italy, in Calabria.
Is it a common name?
Yeah, no, as a Sorrentino, which is my husband. My husband's name. That's Sorrentino. It's like everybody's Sorrentino.
Sorrentino, Neapolitan kind of or
Neapolitan,
Campanian?
also Sicilian, Calabrese. So it's a very popular name, Sorrentino.
Tell me, how did you come about that you wrote the book? What made you?
Practically, I'm not a writer. Let's put it this way. I started to write it because Stefano Vaccara, the director of La Voce di New York, asked me to write to tell my story, what happened in the public school with the Italian program. And I told him back then, 6 years ago, I said, listen, I never wrote or published anything. I said, don't worry, just simple articles. I started to write articles and told what happened, practically how to teach Italian in the US. And surprisingly, a lot of people start to read my articles.
Yeah, you're well known.
So I become motivated.
A lot of people follow your articles.
Yeah. Besides reading my article, they were writing emails and message on Facebook asking me, what should I do it to come and teach in New York? It's my dream. I would like, especially young people, because they're still in college.
By the way, this is the book, and I really have to thank you also, because in this book you mentioned my name several times. So I really appreciate that, and I want to thank you publicly at this point.
Because we consult each other a few times, so you were like one of my advice.
Who published, being this your first book, who published
Lega
it?
For
Legas?
Is done by Gaetano Cipolla, the professor.
Professor Cipolla.
Most of the time he published books written in Sicilian, but he really find this book interesting, and he was happy to publish for me this book also.
So he found it interesting. I thought it was interesting myself when I... so in Calabria, you were born in Calabria. Where about in Calabria?
Today, the provincia is Vibo Valentia. Back then, when I was living there, I was Catanzaro. Then they made more provincias.
Oh, today is Vibo Valentia.
Vibo Valentia, sì.
Is it a new name? I thought it was...
No, they made a new provincia.
I see.
Back then, when I was living in Italy, it was only three.
It was...
Cosenza, Catanzaro, and Reggio Calabria. Then they made 2 more, Crotone and Vibo Valentia. And it's a provincia over there. It's near Tropea. It's a beautiful place to go on vacation.
It's by the sea.
It's not too far from the sea, but I'm a little bit more in from the sea.
Towards Catanzaro. Oh, no.
Near Vibo.
Oh, I see.
Yes, it's
well,
on the valley, practically.
You said about, you said something about Stefano Vaccara.
Yes.
He is the editor of...
Yeah, he created this rubric for the Italian language, to promote the Italian language, especially in public school, because we want to extend the program in public schools. And this, I think, was a great idea, because people became more interested.
He's the chief editor, and apparently he's a hard-working fella.
Yes,
to make sure that the Italian newspaper,
the language at the newspaper.
Yeah. There was one article that impressed me some time ago. You wrote about the Italian-American, we call it Italian-American language, but it broke English-Italian.
The language was invented for the Italian people, practically. They call
Italian immigrants who came to the U.S.
Yes. I experienced that when I came in this country. I live in Brooklyn, it's between Ridgewood, it's between Brooklyn and Queens, it's like on the border. And there were a lot of Sicilian people on one side, a lot of Napolitan people on the other side. And
so you were right in the middle. You married somebody.
Back then, when I started the language, I find a little strange. I said to my husband, "Well, that's a dialect. That's Italian. I don't you understand?" But they would come from different part of Italy, so
But these are people who the immigrant who really did not know much education, did not go to school much. So they use English words, but they retain the Italian grammar.
Exactly. They mix it practically. Like to drive, they put a draviare. So they made the verb, another verb. It's to drive, draviare. Things like that. For them, they communicated with each other.
They were able to communicate
with the American people.
Today, something like this is still happening?
For the old people.
Old people.
Because if they are
the new people, they
know they are very integrated. They know the language very well, and most of the time, if they speak Italian, they'll take Italian school, so they don't speak like that anymore.
So the Italian who were born here, or Italian Americans, they went to school, so they learned the language properly. But the new immigrants, the new
immigrants, they are very highly educated.
Highly educated.
They come in this country with a bachelor degree, sometimes a master degree. They finish college in Italy, then they come here. They're professional. That's different kind of the immigrant.
Now, your book talks about many issues, basically. It talks about violence in school, bullying in school, discrimination, and also rules how to become a teacher in New York City and New York State, which I think are very important. But because these are subjects too wide for us to consider today, I'd like to restrict our conversation about your book, but only that it relates to the Italian language. I hope you don't mind. No. So, you're talking about the system. Now, were you educated in Italy also, or you came here as a child?
In Italy, back then, you become a teacher if you go to magistrale. So I was like a kindergarten teacher called early childhood. Maestra d'asilo. And I practically all my education in college is in this country. So I started the SUNY Community College the first 2 years to see. I want to see how it is education here, because I was a little bit intimidated.
How old were you when you came here?
I after I got married, in 1983, the first time.
1983.
So I was an adult practically. Because
so you know both the Italian system of teaching
back then,
and the American.
But I left Italy practically after 1983. I don't know if things
if it's changed today.
Changed also in Italy.
But you basically felt very secure about describing the two. For example, I don't know much about the Italian system, so I could not say much about it. But you seem that in this book you explained very well the differences.
Compare a little bit. There is a difference, yes, a big difference between the Italian system and the American system. One of the difference is in Italy, a teacher, if teaching Milan, can ask you to be transferring Sicily or Calabria and doesn't lose anything, the graduatory, or we call over there, the seniority. In this country, not only we cannot transfer from one state to another, but even from one city to another, because
it's local.
It's local. It's the city who hire you. If teacher needed to resign, apply somebody else, start from begin again in a different city.
Well, in Italy, it's a national system, apparently.
It's a national system.
I see.
But if they want to move it to another country, that's what I'm explaining in the book, they needed to become certified in this particular country, or they cannot teach in a public school.
Certified, let's say, in New York State, and you cannot teach in California.
I cannot teach not even in New Jersey or in Connecticut.
I see. So only in the state.
Exactly. If I want to go teach in New Jersey, I need to become New Jersey certified or Connecticut certified.
So going into the school system itself, there's a bilingual program.
Yes.
Bilingual program, that means there are two languages that are being taught?
Bilingual program means English, Italian, or French, English, two languages at the same time.
Why?
But they're different way to teach. They're different way to teach bilingual. It's complicated to explain in a short period of time. But at the same, let's give an example. Students that are in this bilingual, we have over there in Newburgh for Spanish and English. They don't have it for Italian.
Mm-hmm.
And
I imagine many schools.
Students, they have everything they learn, they have into both language. They're given a handout, like the handout we have in front of you. One side is in Spanish, one side is in English. Students at the same time, the same lesson, they learn into language. Also, they learn the language, the new language, because most of the students, they are for the first language background. The subject like the geography or things like that, science in the first language, and then the language itself, grammar, to write it, to read it in the English.
In a recent article that you published on La Voce di New York, you spoke about the issues, the problems that the West Haven schools are having, that they felt that Italian...
Oh, that's one of the last articles I wrote about Connecticut.
Yeah, in Connecticut. They don't think the Italian language has any future?
That's the title. That's what they say. They want to remove the program, the Italian program, because according to them, Italian is not the language of the future. And in there is a huge Italian community.
A huge Italian about 16–17% of are Italian.
One of the most Italian community in the country.
Why is that? I mean, if the school is local, isn't it the problem that maybe the parents don't complain? Then, or they don't care?
I have no idea, because I just saw the petition to sign not to remove the program. And I wrote the article about it, explaining that that's not an excuse to say Italian it's not the language of the future. People think that the language of the future, like those Asian language or Chinese, Japanese, Arab. Okay, those languages they're gonna be in the future, but also Italian can be in the future for many, many reasons.
Yeah, sure. There was a friend of mine many years ago that. Actually in Westchester, and the he was actually fighting the Board of Education because they said the future of the language is Japanese. After many years of discussion, they decided, this fellow told the Board of, or convinced the education to ask the parents.
Exactly.
And you know that the parents overwhelmingly decided that Italian should be the foreign language and not Japanese. And since then, we have seen Japanese at that time was supposed to be the language, upcoming language. Instead, today we don't hear much about it, but yet the Italian still persists. It's a shame. It's a shame that the Board of Education still don't believe, and I fault also the Italian American parents. They seem not to talk too much about it. They think that whatever the Board of Education decide, that's good for them. But I think they don't know that underneath that there's a political will. So, can you tell us a little about the YACE program, because that helps the Italian language in public schools?
YACE is a very, very successful program. Okay, has increased the number of students enormously during the last 10 years. And Mr. Paradiso, he does a great job. They do program with it's practically, it's private, but I also hope at the public schools, if they want to implement a new program in a public school, they give a fund. They help go books, they help go some kind of...
they even pay for teachers.
Yeah, they pay for teachers.
But only for a limited time?
For a limited time, partially, but it's also a help in case the district to say, oh, we don't have the money to open a program, or there is no fund. So they provide something to start, I think up to $25 if I'm correct.
So it's IACE.
YACE.
And this is a program that people should contact the American consulate?
Also, there is a link in the book about it.
There is a link in the book.
Yeah, I mean, discuss them, talk about the program. I explain all the details in one of the chapters.
There is also another program which I think may be helping the awareness. It's the AP program in the public schools.
Right now, about the AP, then nobody talks too much because we reached the goal. The Italian program AP
is forgotten.
It's not a risk anymore. It's going to stay for life. It's going to stay there like all the other language.
Why is it not a risk?
Because we went above the 2,500.
There was a requirement of 2,500 students a year?
For the $2, I think it's
15.
16, I think it was
15, 16,
and to take the exam. So they were much more about it. But we needed to talk also because we needed to encourage students to take the AP exam, Italian AP exam, because it's very prestigious and it's good for students.
The AP program, which was advanced...
they give it up to 12 credits. But
what is it called? Advanced placement?
Advanced placement, which means they collect college credit at the time they are in the high school.
So it is.
And they give a lot of AP exam, not only in language, but also in other subjects.
There is one advantage that I think I remember is that does the Italian government allow anybody who has taken an AP program to go to an Italian university?
Yes. If they take 3 AP exam, I think 3, one of these is Italian, they're gonna...
Oh, you need to take 3 AP programs.
One of the exam is Italian. They have the advantage to be accepted in an Italian university.
What would be the advantage of an American student to take or enroll in an Italian university?
Tuition, it's number one.
Tuition?
Because here it's very expensive over there. That's much less. They pay for the rooms, they pay for the books, but there is no really the tuition the way it is in this country. It's very
so the tuition is actually free. The school, even a college level.
They take something, but they pay the books. They needed to pay board, some place to live, and so on. But they pay here also. But in this country, tuition is very, very expensive.
So in other words,
especially if they go to private school. Besides that, you know, they are in a different
atmosphere, the different country. There is a charter schools. Do you know anything about the charter schools?
Well, I wrote an article about the charter schools. I never taught in charter schools. There is a lot of
pros and cons.
you know, about it. And they run as a private school, but with the public money.
Public money.
Okay, so that's why they're a little bit.
But that is, it was created in order to help.
Yeah, they created to create it to help students because they were failing in the school. A lot of students they were don't learn, drop out, and so on. So they started with these charter schools to see if it works. Sometimes in some places it works. Students, some students are better.
I hear Brooklyn has many charter schools.
There is a lot in the city.
A lot in the city.
Everywhere. I think we have also one in Newburgh. You know, but no.
Of course, they're in conflict with the regular public school. But do you know if
everybody has an access, but they're small schools. That's the good thing because some students they can function well in a big school. They function better in a small setting.
Yeah. Do you know that if the charter schools offer Italian language, for example?
I never saw. I put in the article. You know, I don't know any charter school that they give Italian language. So maybe they do, but I don't. I'm
your book only deals with public school.
Yes, because it's where most of my students.
You're mostly familiar. But do you know anything about, for example, the Catholic schools? Do they teach Italian Catholic schools?
Well,
I never hear anything about it.
When I live in Brooklyn, my children went to Catholic school, and they would take Italian.
In Brooklyn?
Yeah, in Brooklyn. The community was Italian, so Italian was there. They were Italian teachers, and so on. But it also depends on the school. I know some very good school. I was looking the past before I find this full-time position for myself to teach Italian. A lot of them, they would say, no, we don't have Italian, we have Spanish. So we have some very important, expensive Catholic school that they don't give Italian. And that depends also on the parents, the community, what they look for, because the parents, if they request a program, they can implement it.
There are some things that you talk about in the book, the P-Tech.
Yes. We also
what is the P-Tech?
It's an high school, 6 years instead of 4. And we have also a Newburgh who was very, very successful. The first was open in Brooklyn. When President Obama was there, he visited, he was impressed. He said that will be the role model.
It has to do with technology or science?
It has to do with technology mostly. It's what they call P-Tech because students, they graduate from, they're going to get a degree from high school and then an associate degree in technology. So completely free. Because it's
at the level of elementary.
At the same time they do on the high school.
So in other words, the community college, basically, they do 2 years of high school, 2 years of...
That was an agreement with the IBM and I think it's CUNY. I think it's CUNY or SUNY, and one of the two. Can they give you the degree? I don't know if it is for CUNY or for SUNY. I'm not in this moment. I don't remember. With the collaboration with the IBM, and those students, if they graduate for those P-Tech, they are the first choice for the IBM to find a job.
Oh wow!
So they are practically, and once again, everybody can apply, but they needed to be highly motivated and to work a little harder. That's all. But it's completely free.
Is it completely free? And it is in New York City? In
New York City, we have a lot in New York. But
you say Newburgh, so that means even outside of New York City then?
Yeah. Newburgh, we also have in other states they open up also, in other states. I think Chicago has also.
Oh, Chicago also.
But we started in Brooklyn. The first one started in Brooklyn.
Now, you say you taught in Long Island, on Long Island, for several years.
Yeah, in 2003, when I got my master's degree, I applied right away. Everybody on college level will give me a job as an adjunct professor.
Yeah.
But, you know, for adjunct professor, you don't make a lot of money. Just they pay you by class.
Not that they pay you a lot of money as a regular teacher, but still you are on the payroll.
So I taught to many, whatever college I applied, I was teaching classes. In the meantime, I was going to get this certification. It was one of the tests. I didn't pass it right away, the last, they call it the last. For people, teachers, they don't do the high school in this country, liberal arts, science, mostly. It's was kind of difficult. I also started to do they hired me in 2003 without the certification, but it's in Seldon. That was my first job in an high school, but it was too much. We talk about culture shock and the difference between the way I remember the school in Italy, the way it was here. I resigned for the job in December after 3 months.
Oh, yeah.
So that's why I also told in my book, you know, you need to be prepared to a culture shock. Yeah. Don't you think you come here with the mentality you have in Italy, and everything comes, you know, you need to change mentality, adapt yourself to the change and so on.
With Long Island, do you know the status of the Italian language?
It's one of the, the most students we have in New York State. They are Long Island, Italian students.
Really?
Yeah. I think 2 years ago, the professor who brought more students to the IP examination was from Long Island in Oceanside, 33 students there here.
Yeah.
So among all the states.
So
there is a big community, Italian community, Long Island, and a lot of schools.
So you would say Long Island Long Island Italian is healthy, is it increasing?
I don't know about increase because our also depended the school. Our also teachers they complain when a teacher retire, sometimes they don't really replace with another Italian teachers. To hire a new teacher. Sometimes they try to squeeze it in the students with the teacher they have, and it's also political, whatever, depending on the try to save money and so on. So we needed to keep a fight for the Italian program.
Is there any private Italian school in New York? Suppose you want to send your kid, your student to a private school.
La Scuola Italiana.
La Scuola Italiana.
They get the Italian program, Liceo, the high school program. They have two.
But there's only one school.
You know,
there are not several schools, let's say. Private school, I mean.
That's a private school.
Yeah. But suppose I want to open up a school, a private school. Is there such a thing? I want to send my children to a private school, like I think many other ethnic background, people of ethnic background have that possibility of sending their kids to after school.
Oh, to after school program. Yeah. I know that some school they have a in Long Island, Santa Bridget, I think they have they don't have after school. They have on weekend, on Saturday for the Italian program to teach Italian. Also, some places, but they come like to the church.
I see.
Okay, they're gonna go on weekend or a few days a week.
Tell me one last thing. Why is the studying of the language an important thing as far as, let's say, identity is concerned? Why we need to study a foreign language or some other languages?
That's what my students keep asking me. What are you a foreign language for? Because it's a tool that opens so many doors.
So tools that open many doors.
Many doors. You know, so what I need, to study Italian for, you never know. Maybe one day you want to be in business, you want to go food business.
Somebody who studies Italian.
Any kind of
what kind of suppose my son studies Italian. What are the possibility of him getting a job in what field?
any kind of field he chooses to work, Italia is useful. If what I say to my students, you want to become a lawyer, remember the law was based on the Roman. It's Latin. It's a lot of Latin there. You need to learn because the Roman invented still today the laws. That's
how about fashion?
Fashion, but also medical school.
Medical school.
All the terminology in science are in Latin. And
there was a time a lot of Americans went to medical schools in Italy, but then laws were changed.
Fashion is number one. Who doesn't know the big designer? Food.
Food, especially food.
Constructions, okay, we go forever.
All right. Anyway, I want to tell you, I want to thank you. We have reached the end of our program.
Thank you.
I would like to say, please come back next time when we have another Italian-American writer. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.